I do hope that this is a slap in the face of the Russian Federation that wanted to, and still wants, didn't give up on this idea to take over, to conquer Ukraine, and to insert its type of rules on the territory of our independent and sovereign country.
Now, let's start with the vote which has granted Ukraine's accession to the EU. How significant was this vote, and what's this going to mean for Ukraine?
Well, I think it was incredibly significant both for Ukraine and also for the EU itself. Definitely for Ukrainian people, it's a thrilling moment, and it definitely is boosting the morale of the whole nation. And for us, it's something to understand that our future is finally anchored with the EU, with the strategic choice that the Ukrainian people have made years ago. And that we do have a ray of light at the end of the tunnel. So we know how and what we have to do in order to transform and actually go through all the stages of this path. We are also fully aware that this is requires a lot of work and requires a lot of effort, additional one, but definitely the decision is already there. With regard to the EU, though, I think it's also critically important because it shows that the EU is finally kind of leaving its role as a smaller geopolitical actor. And I think that with opening negotiations with Ukraine, with Moldova, giving the candidate status to Georgia, giving an additional promise to Bosnia and Herzegovina, all of this means that the EU is actually returning to the union that is based on values and is returning to the whole idea why it was created, decades ago.
Yes, absolutely. And, the EU, of course, has had some challenges itself. Our country has, of course, left the EU recently. So it's a vote of confidence in the EU that other countries want to join. And what about the signal that this also sends to Russia, that Ukraine sees its future closer to the EU, obviously not close to Russia? What kind of signal do you think that sends?
Well, I do hope that this is a slap in the face of the Russian Federation that wanted to, and still wants, didn't give up on this idea to take over, to conquer Ukraine, and to insert its type of rules on the territory of our independent and sovereign country, and wants to kind of impose the imperial attitude towards the territories that it believes it has some right to do so. But I think that also it gives a absolutely critical signal of the EU standing up to the challenge, standing up and rising up to the goal. I think this is something that definitely Russian Federation and Putin himself did not expect of the EU, and he was hoping that those people who do have some closer ties with him will be able to stop this process. He has been trying to do that for decades already. And we're grateful that there was real leadership shown by different heads of states and governments and institutions while this discussion on this decision was taking place.
Now, of course, a lot of support from within key figures in the European Union about Ukraine joining the EU. But of course, a disappointment when it came to that vote on funding from the EU, particularly with the decision from Orban, who posted summary of the night shift veto for the extra money to Ukraine. How much of a setback is this for Ukraine financially, but also psychologically?
Well, definitely it's a challenge, but we are hopeful that this extraordinary summit that has been announced that will take place in January will actually resolve that. that issue. And we know that if it's not 27 who will be voting for that particular decision, there are ways how to do that procedurally also by 26. So I hope that in some format the decision will be taken in January. But I also think that we have to take all this behavior of Orban seriously with regard to additional challenges that will be faced by the EU internally, because definitely he will try to blackmail the Union on different other cases, also including on the next decisions, for example, with regard to Ukraine. And we should not, as a community of countries that values democracy, that values rule of law, that values freedoms. I think we should not allow someone to take hostage everyone in order to get his own personal political interests and dependencies being kind of satisfied.
Mm. And of course, there was this. There was the decision from Orban, but of course, disappointment as well in terms of President Zelensky's trip to America, which has so far failed to get that big package, that £61 billion package of aid from America. And of course, there are big elections happening in America later in the year. Donald Trump may well come back as president. How nervous are you that you will see American support, financial support for Ukraine beginning to weaken?
Well, this is I think, a great challenge, not exclusively for Ukraine. I think it's a great challenge for the whole world. And actually, I think it's lack of real understanding that the national interest of the US actually includes the necessity to defeat the Russian Federation and do it while we all together can do it on our territory by kicking them out from our territory, and then making sure that they are weakened to the extent that they cannot wage another war, that they are isolated, they are punished. And maybe then we can see some type of normality in that particular state. And that is definitely part of the national interest of the United States. So yes, we are worried, and we are worried that, if the American leadership will be fading from this common effort of the free world, that means that the U.S. is giving up on the promise it has given, not exclusively to their own people, but actually to the free world. And many other nations that are looking up right now to the U.S., they will feel much more doubtful and skeptical with regard to any endeavors that the U.S. will decide to take in the future. So therefore, I would hope, and there is a very tender, so to say, a hope that Senate has decided to continue negotiations, and they are not breaking yet for the Christmas break. And maybe if they find the ability to negotiate some deal, how to support Ukraine, maybe then the Congress will also get together still before Christmas in order to take this decision. I'd hope that local internal politics would not overwhelm the much higher strategic goals also for the country that wants to continue to be the kind of the symbol of democracy and the symbol of rules and the symbol of freedom in the world.
Okay, well, look, we've come to the end of our time, but thank you so much for your time this morning. A very, very interesting conversation. Thank you.